Stop taking marriage advice from a bitch who sells coochie.
What did she say?
I said stop taking marital advice from a bitch who sells coochie.
And you think I'm the problem? What am I asking you guys for? People still believe I actually look like this, yet they can't find a single verse in the Bible that proves
it. These AI church skits are going crazy. I mean, the way they're doing these AI church skits. And originally I was just going to use the little devil part and what he talked about at the end about what he looks like. But I thought to myself, nah, I'm just going to use the whole thing because they are tripping on the AI. If you're not part of have been watching the AI church skits with these pastors, I've used a couple of them to make points. This is funny. And this one also has a great point to make that, a lot of women are taking advices from other women who particularly are just prostituting themselves, right? That's all they're doing. When a woman says that, the most important thing about a man is how much money he makes, she's just prostituting herself. When she doesn't care about his character, his being, that's just prostituting herself. You can call it a call girl, you can call it whatever you like, you can call it a gold digger, but it's really just prostitution, modern day prostitution, because we don't live in an agrarian world. We don't live in where women can't make it just as much as a man. So that's an old way of thinking. And on my channel, Lorenzo Reed 369, where I talk about relationships, I've made that point quite a few times. But what I want to talk about here real quick is the idea of the devil being this demon. And many of the concepts of the devil that people have, that they live out in life, is something that was created not by your Bible. You can't find it in your Bible. Where in your Bible does it say that the devil is red? Where in your Bible does it say that the devil is grotesque? Where is it in your Bible that it says anything about the devil having a pitchfork or he having a long tail or long ponytail? Where is it? I give you a minute. Where is it? Where is that in your Bible? If you know where that's at, please put it in the comments. And make sure you subscribe to the channel and share the video. But where do you find that in your Bible? You will not. You will not. Most of your modern day imagery of the devil comes from Dante's Inferno. That's it. Dante's Inferno, a dude who was writing in the Renaissance, after the Renaissance time frame, is where you get this idea of the devil. Prior to that, most people will say that, oh no, it was a beautiful angel, it was the most beautiful, perfect, beautiful angel that ever existed. Where is that? Where's that in your Bible? Where's that? That's not in your Bible. That's in, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm quite sure that's not in your Bible where it talks about how he was the most beautiful angel. No. I think that comes from books that are not in your Bible. The Bible often often like to have ideas that don't come from their Bible, and they like to quote them. It's just like there's a young lady who was, I told her that her idea that Moses would have been written out, that the Pharaoh said that I'm going to write Moses' name out of history. In my video I did yesterday about Seminut and Moses, I told her it was in the movies that she got that idea. And she's like, no, you're lying. It's in the Bible. But she never put a quote. She never put where it's said in the Bible. You know why? Because it comes from the movies. It doesn't come from that. It's even watching Prince of Egypt where he says that, and it's not in your Bible. But you believe it. It's just like people believe the song by Kirk Franklin that God would never put more on you than you can bear. That's not what it says. It says he would never put more on you than you can bear without providing you an escape. But y'all think that he won't put more on you than you can bear, so you're supposed to carry the load. And Jesus is helping you. Y'all don't read your Bible. You don't understand your Bible. You don't really know what's in it. And Lucifer, talking about the planet Venus. It's talking about a planet that you can see before the dawn. It's not talking about an actual being. In the Old Testament, when it speaks about Lucifer, it's talking about the king of Tyre. That's it. It's not talking about Nebuchadnezzar, as somebody else said. It's talking about the king of Tyre and how he needs to humble himself. That's what it's talking about. But this is one of the reasons and how we deconstruct from this book is that we recognize what it says. If you was on the live today, then you would have heard me express how there was the 10 commandments. He broke the stones, and then he had said, I'll write you a brand new 10 commandments. He gave the 10, which were very different from that. And yes, in Deuteronomy 5, he restates the original 10. But there is the part where he writes down a brand new 10 where it has child sacrifice, where it tells you not to boil a baby kid in his mother's milk, Well, it tells you to keep the festival of weeks, where it tells you don't mix the sacrificial blood with the unleavened bread, where it tells you to keep the Sabbath. It tells you to only have that one God, but it tells you at least 7 different than were on the first 10. And of course, the psychology of the mind is that you got to uh, the psychology of the conscious dissonance is that you have to figure out a way to make it work. And so you shuck and jive your way. You believe what pastors have said, and yet you don't even recognize that most of those things are in your Bible. The golden rule is not actually in your Bible. That is something that people have extrapolated from other verses, but it's not actually in your Bible. The war in heaven is not in your Bible. It is mentioned, it is quoted, but it actually comes from the book of Enoch. So here's the question, people. If the war in heaven is something that was gained, that knowledge was gained out of Enoch, by which Enoch is just copying what they knew about the Sumerians and Arcadians. But if that's in your Bible, if why isn't Enoch in your Bible? If it's quoted, Jude quotes it, Paul quotes it, but it's not in your Bible. Satan falling from heaven or the devil falling from heaven, as Jesus proclaimed in Revelations, is not in your Bible. That's in Enoch. But why isn't it in your Bible? The 200 watchers coming down to Mount Harmon and having sex with these women and teaching them all this magic. Genesis 6 just says that, hey, I think it's Genesis 6, just says that, hey, the sons of God saw the daughters of men and thought that they were beautiful, and the Nephilim were on the earth. It doesn't necessarily say the Nephilim came from that union. But because Enoch said that 200 angels, watchers, came down and they had sex with the daughters of men, and then they started producing these giants, and I'm wondering how these giant ping pings get into these little bitty women's pum pum is a very interesting thought process. You know, um, having these big ass babies, and that whole story of them watchers becoming so evil that they then were part of the flood. It all comes from the book of Enoch, the Enochian literature, which we know is fan fiction. So, but it's not in your Bible. And for those who are going to say it's in the Ethiopian boxes, Bible, it's in the Eastern Orthodox, and that's the oldest Bible. No, it's not. There was no Ethiopian canonization of a Bible until at least 330 CE. Yes, the canon of the Bible, of the Roman Bible, didn't happen until around 369, but they are nowhere connection to each other. Everything the Ethiopians learned, they learned from the Coptic Church out of Alexandria, Egypt, which was under the Romans. So even though they have more books, they have those books because they are not part of the Roman. They are not the oldest. The Eastern Orthodox canonized their Bible in 301, which was before them. So they had theirs. And they were the first nation to truly be declared uh, Christian. But even prior to all of that, there were Christians within all over Rome, all over Europe. So please dispense with that Ethiopian Bible bullshit. It doesn't make this religion African. But learn, people, learn. You need to learn instead of just accepting what some pastor says. Take everything that I've said today, go back, research it, look it up, and see what you come up with. Don't even take what I say. Go and research it for yourself. Use Google Scholar and Academia EDU. That'll be very helpful for you. So y'all have a great day, and always remember, you have to free yourself to beat yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.